Pat Lewis to the stage. he was getting a bottle of water. Yeah.
2 bottles.
Well, I want to just welcome everyone here to the Acadiana Center for the Arts. My name is Samuel Oliver. I'm the Executive Director of the ACA. It's a pleasure for us to be able to host this conversation. The conversations that have followed the initiation of the Protect the City Committee and now the publication of the draft report, we find to be incredibly important to especially an entity like this, the Acadiana Center for the Arts, which is itself an asset of the city of Lafayette. So I think when we talk about the protection of the city of Lafayette, we need to think about assets like the Acadiana Center for the Arts and a lot of the cultural and quality of life institutions that help set this city apart, make it competitive in a very, very competitive world. We try to bring, experiences to people of all backgrounds, of all economic statuses, bring exposure to the arts, to the wide variety of, what you can experience in this world, in culture, through our programs here at the ACA. And so, again, we're thrilled to host this discussion. I really wanted to thank all the members of the Protect the City Committee for showing up this evening, as well as 2 of our 5 city council people, Pat Lewis and Annette Cook. So thank you all so much for being here. Before we begin and before I hand it off to Jan Swift, who's the chair of the Protect the City Committee, I just wanted to take a pause for a silent prayer. Thank you. And now also before we begin, we will, if we get our American flag, there we go, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Without further ado, I'd like to hand it off to, as mentioned, Jan Swift, who has been chairing the Protect the City Committee, represented here today. Jan Swift.
I want to first thank all of you for coming out in this weather. What a day. Hopefully it's like a wedding. Sometimes the best partnerships take place when there's a rocky start. So thank you for coming out, coming downtown to the Hub City core and downtown Lafayette. So what I'd like to do is first welcome Maddie Trichalik. Maddie, let's see. Let me say this first. Scene Trichalik, we'll have their photos up in a moment, but Scene Trichalik was offering our entertainment earlier outside. And I'm a personal friend of Scene's, and he came to my rescue. We had talked about having violin, but at the last minute we made a better adjustment. And so Scene came and played. He's a well-known musician. And Maddie Trichalik is a teacher, and she has played at Asbury, and that's where I met her. We go to Asbury United Methodist, and she's a beautiful flautist. So thank you for leading us first. Before we begin, I thought we could maybe celebrate arts and culture in our community. Maddie? Thanks to both Tricholics for entertaining us this evening. So welcome to the Protect the City Committee Town Hall Forum. Before I begin, I'd like to introduce Veronica Williams. V, as we call her, is the clerk of both the city and the parish council. And this is kind of a hybrid meeting tonight. We have your registration for those that registered. Some walked in, that was perfectly fine. If anybody would like to sign a form and register whether you're pro or con what's going on in our discussion and say you'd like to speak, you can do that. V is going to be here till about 6:20 or so. You can fill this out if you'd like. She can get it to you. You're free, though, to raise your hand and ask questions at the end of our presentation. But I did want to let you know that this is really a hybrid meeting. We will be meeting again tomorrow night on June 22nd at 5:30 at City Hall for our regularly scheduled Protect the City Committee, and the public is also welcome to join us. I'd like to thank the ACA. Sam Oliver has been attending our meetings. He's a big proponent for the City of Lafayette and the Parish of Lafayette. He would like to see us move the discussion forward and also have candid discussion among our residents. I want to thank Sean Tricholic and Maddie Tricholic. Many of you know Sean. He's actually the general manager of KTC. And Maddie, as I said, is a beautiful teacher, and she plays for events if anybody's interested also. I want to thank Schilling Distributing. I called Herb Schilling. He knows I'm on this committee. We have a long-time relationship since I worked with Upper Lafayette Economic Development. And Schilling, through Herb and Buddy Schilling, donated all of the adult beverage tonight, the beer and the wine, and then Coca-Cola donated the water and the Coke. So thanks to them for making this a fun event. I want to thank our city council, and in particular, if I can ask Pat Lewis and Annette Cook to stand. Thank you so much for giving us this opportunity. And I want to point out to you why we have two council members here. They have public records, rules, or whatever they have to follow. So if they have 5 members on the city council and the parish council. So if more than 2 show up, it's a quorum. So we would have preferred to have had all of the city council members here, but they're limited under state law. And I'm going to be asking you guys to speak as we go on, but unless you want to say something as we introduce. Is that all right? Okay. But this is our city council. The back is Andy Nakan, and then Pat Lewis, and seated is Nanette Cook, Glenn Lazard, and Liz Webb-Hebert. Okay, so we're called the Protect the City Committee. We are only a committee, and I want to make this clear. We're getting feedback as we go along with the public, and we are just like a fact-finding committee. We have no power under state law at all. We've spent a lot of time, but we'll be telling you more about a charter commission that we need to have appointed. But we are kind of like investigators, like, sleuths or Sherlock Holmes, but our findings are only going on paper as a report. We're the first step to helping the public learn more about city and parish government operates. So back early this year, the Lafayette City Council created the Protect the City Committee to engage in an open, public, transparent discussion of the city's continuing problems with our consolidated form of government. Now, underlying their concerns were the following. They've experienced a lack of control, the city council has, lack of control over departments and component units of government that are funded by city tax dollars. Second, there's been an inability to make motions or debate joint ordinances without the Lafayette Parish Council concurrence, including things like our city parks and city-owned buildings. There's been a failure to implement recent amendments to the charter to provide the level of city autonomy desired by the voters. And we'll be talking about the Fix the Charter from 2018 in a moment. So we were asked to answer 14 questions. We have a draft report. I'll let you know how to get to it. But we were basically asked, we were kind of hired for no pay. Like, actually, they should be paying us. But I owe you, I owe you the opportunity that I got to do this, but it's been quite a bit of work. We're all volunteers, but we were asked by the city council to look into things about the city dollars and city government. We weren't really asked to dive deep into the parish things like the courthouse and the jail and the coroner and the DA. So I'll get to that in a minute, but people have asked, why didn't y'all come up with solutions for everything? We're kind of just like first base. We're just getting people, we want to get a home run, but we're just kind of on first base at this point. So this is who we are. I'm the chair of the Protect the City. I'd like you to stand as I call out your name and embarrass you. So the vice chair is Joseph Tag Catalan, Mark Pope, Roddy Bergeron, Tina Shelvin Bingham, William Bill Leindecker, and this is his face. I'm not sure that is Bill Leindecker because he wouldn't give us his photo, but I didn't check his passport, but I think that's Bill. And last but not least, Stuart Bro, the chair of our drafting committee. Thank you all for your service. What have we done? Well, we've met over 40 hours in public meetings. This is a public process, and people want transparent government, and it's hard to know what that is. But I can tell you, we've been meeting over long lunches from 11 to 2. We eat our cold lunch at 2:30, and we've really tried to make this transparent. We've heard from all kinds of people, past and current, that are experts, former Lafayette Consolidated Government officials and employees, charter commissioners from way back from 1992 to 2018, Lafayette Consolidated Government's auditors, cost allocation consultants, which we'll talk about, and civic leaders, just people that kind of give a darn about what we're doing. We've looked at budgets back. It's hard to find stuff because not all the budgets are online. We got maybe from 2006 or 8. We couldn't go back to 96. There's nothing online. So we did the best we could. We looked at reports. We looked at scholarly articles about consolidation. We looked at whatever we thought pertained to consolidated government. We've produced, and I say we loosely, the drafting committee, thank you all, have produced a 28-page draft report setting forth its findings. And again, at the end, I'll tell you how to find it. We're trying to redo it to make it easier for people to look at, where you can look at the front page and the back couple of pages, but it's basically full of our findings. And this is our 5th town hall meeting in the past week across the city, but we have met every 2 weeks, and again, we're meeting tomorrow night at 5:30 at City Hall. What have we concluded? These are the big conclusions. And again, I want to point out, we've had a majority. We've had 6 out of 7 vote on this. We understand that not everybody agrees with us, and that's why we're meeting in public. If everybody agreed, wouldn't you really wonder, what's up with that? But over these 40-plus hours and listening to the public, some things they've kind of bubbled up to the surface. We believe that consolidation, and I'm going to define that for you in a minute, consolidation has been unfair to the city of Lafayette. The city of Lafayette would be best served by deconsolidation. We also believe that both the city and Lafayette Parish deserve a government that is directly accountable to its citizens, a government that doesn't serve 2 masters, a mayor-president. Right now we have 1 mayor-president, and it's not his fault. It's the way our government is proposed. It's the way it's composed right now. This is not a blight on anybody. It's the way it's just been set up since the election in 92 and they began in 96. And a government that reflects fundamental American principles of representative democracy and self-governance. And I want to say that again. A government that reflects fundamental American principles of representative democracy and self-governance. And my family might kill me, but they know that I got a bad email yesterday. I was getting ready for church, 8:30 service, and Kelly, my daughter, was flying into New Orleans from Nashville this morning. She was like, how do I sign on? How do I do my little check-in? And I went to my emails, and I was emailed by somebody, And Pat and Nanette and other elected officials, past and present, I know now what you're going through. I was cursed out in all caps because I said, I was quoted in the paper saying I thought it was un-American that perhaps the city of Lafayette didn't have its own mayor, that there could be taxation without representation. And Kelly told me I can't say the words, but one of them started, stupid, and I can't say the other words, but something about a word that starts with F. An R word, is that the way to say it? MAGA, I can say. And I was basically called names that I've never been called, and I might be stupid, and actually some of you could probably confirm that. But I find it interesting that when you step up as a volunteer or when you are elected, even when you want to have public discourse, it brings out people's anger. So hopefully we're doing our job to get the word out, and I'm going to leave it at that. But I want you to know it's been an interesting journey. So I want to tell you a little bit about consolidated government. Back in the 70s, and Stuart, thank you, the bulk of this presentation was put together by Stuart Bro. Efforts at consolidation began back in the 1970s. Lafayette is a very small parish, and you know, Lafayette was a big city at the time compared to the small municipalities. And there was a failed attempt to try to get Karen Crow Scott Doosan. Doosan is like this big. Karen Crow was maybe a little bit bigger. Youngsville, Broussard were just blips on the map at that point. But they wanted to see if maybe everybody could just have one government, kumbaya. It did not go well. So in 1990, and I see that Conrad Como is here. Where's Conrad? Conrad's been involved since way back, and he's been one of our experts that came and talked to us. He was on the parish council at the time. There was a 1990 charter commission formed to study consolidation of the city of Lafayette and the Lafayette parish governments, but not other municipalities, because I kind of learned the hard way, that's not going to go anywhere. So people were saying it just doesn't make sense for like a small parish to have duplicate governments. Why do we have two roads and drainage and this and that? So there was a real attempt at the time, it was logical, to merge the city of Lafayette, and I'll give you the statistics about the size of Lafayette at the time, but it was a small parish with a pretty large city that was really booming with oil and gas money. We had gone through ups and downs, but Lafayette was strong. Many believed that our parish was simply withering away, and there was a push, in particular by the Chamber of Commerce at the time, that it would save $3.5 to $5 million per year to eliminate duplicate services. And that all made sense. So it went to the voters. The Daily Advertiser at the time was gung-ho behind it, and there was really very few people that knew the other side to it. So 60% of the voters said yes to consolidation. Interestingly, and I don't know the background, but the city council never voted on this. The city of Lafayette council never voted, but it did pass. There were some lawsuits, but I think they were filed too late. So consolidation happened. And then over the years, we'll get into the charts again, but Lafayette stopped growing. The city of Lafayette stopped growing as a percentage of our parish. We still grew, and we grew well. We had a lot of big businesses. But by 2010, there was a charter commission that was called, and they were concerned actually about the authority over Lafayette utility system. As the other cities started growing and Lafayette was shrinking as a part of the parish, one person was over both the city and the parish, and our biggest asset, of course, is Lafayette utility systems. So there was a real concern about population shifts. But in 2011, we had a vote, and I have to tell you, I worked at the time with Upper Lafayette Economic Development. I voted against deconsolidation. There was no plan. It was just up or down. So people were asked to vote. Do you want to deconsolidate or stay as we are? 63%, let's just stay as we are, because there was no plan about how to transition. And there's no fingers being pointed here. It's just we've heard over and over from our report, people want to know what is a plan. But it went down. So again in 2013, there was another attempt to call a charter commission. It failed. In 2018, many of you remember, we had what was kind of termed fix the charter. 53% voted in favor and 47% were opposed. And what happened was we did a few things. We created a City of Lafayette Council and a Lafayette Parish Council. Each have 5 now. Before it was like one parish council with 9 people. There were added protections for Lafayette Utility System that required a vote of the people before privatizing management, because there was an attempt to look at privatizing management that ruffled a few feathers, like a lot of feathers. And then there were some lawsuits that delayed the transition. So when the new administration came in 2020, they really just kind of hit the ground running. And I guess Nanette and Pat can talk about that in a minute. But there was really no ability, because of delays before 2020, to say, how are we going to manage with the city council and the parish council? So they've been trying to work it out since, and that's kind of why I'm standing here. So this is the shifts in population. If you look on the left, I don't know if y'all can read that, but in 1996, the parish was 181,000. Lafayette was 114,000. When you look, the only estimates we have now is 2019. We don't have the current census reports. Lafayette has not grown in the same percentage as some of the other municipalities. So as an example, Youngsville has grown 394.1%. Broussard has grown 147.8%. Karen Crow, 61.9%. Unincorporated areas blew me away. Pat Lewis was the first one to tell me this. About 30% of our population in Lafayette Parish lives outside of any city. 30% of our population is not in a city. And then Scott has grown 26.7, Dusson 16.4. Look at Lafayette. We've grown 9.8%. We're the hub city. I've got a couple more slides on this. So you can look at the pie chart, the one on the left. We were 63.4% of the parish. And you can see the other unincorporated was 24.5. Youngsville was like only 1.6%, very small percentages. This is the big thing. This was from 2 years ago. 51.6%. That was the population of City of Lafayette in 2019. We're the hub city. 51.6%. What is consolidation? Consolidation is the consolidation of government services. It didn't get rid of the city and the parish. So legally, the City of Lafayette's an entity, the parish is an entity. We have separate budgets, kind of, and separate taxes, definitely. The city and parish have separate assets. We have big assets such as Lafayette Utility System and LUS Fiber, which is kind of half of our budget. That's like the big player in the game. We also have the fire and the police departments, and I think this building is in, I don't know where Sam is, I think this is a city-owned building. The parish has a heavy load to lift, and that's what I think most of my team members have learned. And I see Mark Pope over there, you know this. The parish has the heavy lifting. The courthouse, the jail, this is under state law. Operation of parish offices, the clerk of court, the sheriff, the tax assessor, the district attorney, and the coroner. So I see Conrad again over there. The parish has a heavy load to lift, and we are struggling as a team. We also know that the parish functions as a parish-wide drainage district. Now, who hasn't worried about flooding in the past 4 to 5 years? Why deconsolidate? The City of Lafayette lacks autonomy. Every other municipality in Lafayette has its own mayor, and they have autonomy, and none of them want to give it up. Some people have talked about, why don't we just have all the cities join in, and we'll just hold hands. Well, who wants to give up their mayor, their elected police chief, their city council? Nobody we've talked to. Now, we haven't beaten on doors yet, but we've heard through the years that that's not really what people want to do. Our city, Lafayette, is served by a mayor who also serves as president of the council. President of the parish, I'm misreading. Lafayette is served by a mayor who also serves as president of the parish and who is elected by all people in the parish. So everybody in the parish votes for our mayor. Everybody who lives in Scott, Dusant, Karen Crow, et cetera. And that's a point we've seen that people haven't really understood. We don't really have true consolidation. While everybody else in the parish and almost every municipality in the United States of America has a mayor whose loyalties are undivided, Lafayette's mayor-president serves two masters. He, and I hope it's she one day, he has to serve the city, and he also has to serve the parish. He has to negotiate with himself to balance the budget. This is nobody's fault. Nobody on this committee has talked about any personalities, and I want to make that clear. This is the way our government is set up now. The people that have served under the way the government was set up, and I really believe they've done the best they can. We don't always agree with their decisions, but they have reasons, and being elected is a tough role. But soon, with population shifts, and we all know this, when young people move to town, they kind of seem to want to go, hopefully, to downtown, but right now it's Youngsville, Broussard, and other municipalities. Soon, a majority of voters in the Lafayette Parish will reside outside of the city. What does that mean? A majority of the people voting for the mayor of Lafayette, and that could be our next election, will reside outside of the city. Think about that. Do you think we have the right to vote for the mayor of Karen Crow? Do you think they even care what we think? I live by the oil center. I know all of you live throughout regions in our parish. Do you think that Youngsville, do you think Ken Ritter wants us telling him what to do in Youngsville? No. And he shouldn't. I mean, that's how it is. So Broussard, Karen Crow, Dusant, Scott, Youngsville all have their own mayor, but they get to vote for our mayor. People who don't live inside the city don't pay city taxes. We are all parish residents, and I want to make that clear. We're all in this together. We all pay parish taxes, but people that live in those other municipalities get to vote for the mayor of Lafayette, and they control our assets, including Lafayette Utility System and our chief of police appointment. So look at this. I wanted this visual, and that's my fault. I did this PowerPoint. I changed it, Stuart. I'm sorry. These are the other municipalities inside the parish. None of us that live in the city get to vote for these. At this point, guys, none of us get to vote for them, but everybody gets to vote for the person that controls the city of Lafayette. So what have we learned? The city, and this is kind of deep dive, the city's been subsidizing the parish. The city of Lafayette shoulders more of the cost of consolidation than is fair because costs are allocated. We have like a parish fund and a city fund, but parish dollars are put into the city general fund. So then we have costs that are shared. We have costs that are shared on administration, IT, a lot of stuff that's in our report, but you probably get it. There's some shared things that we do split. But everything goes into the city general fund from the parish. Like they'll give us some of their money. We've learned that city funds have been used for capital projects outside of the city and for capital outlays that should be funded jointly by the city and parish. The city of Lafayette pays for equipment, and we've learned this pretty much. We can't nail it down every piece of equipment, but basically the city of Lafayette pays for equipment, and we share it with the parish. As recently as last month, $3.85 million in city funds were appropriated for work outside of the city. And interestingly, and this was brought out by our finance committee that's chaired by Mark Pope, labor costs, in particular with drainage and public works, are not tracked by the government. So the good thing is when you have a problem and you call, they are Johnny on the spot. They try to go help you. But there's no tracking of, is it 60% in the city and 40% in the parish, like unincorporated areas? There's no tracking. We were unable to find out labor, cost of gas, how many shovels. We couldn't find out. We'd like to, and maybe we will as we move forward. Maybe the Charter Commission can find out. But we were told basically that there's no tracking. So the good news is people do work hard, and we were proud of that. We're proud of our public servants, but there's no like GPS system. You got stuff, V? Okay. Thank you for this. Thank you. Okay. Anybody that didn't sign in, Sam Oliver has forms he can share with you. So some of this came to the spotlight during the Durrell administration back in 2012. This was during his third term. Joey Durrell apparently had an epiphany, and he realized, oh my gosh, we've been like splitting costs between the city and parish. Sometimes it was 60-40%, sometimes it was 80 to 20%, sometimes more, 83-17, and then it went back and forth. But Joey, and he wrote this is public record, he wrote this for 4 years in his budgets. Millions of dollars have leaked into parish government, causing the city to build less infrastructure, hire fewer firemen, policemen, public works employees, as well as other personnel needed to provide for the needs of our community in the city of Lafayette community. We've had other people come speak to us that have confirmed that. It's been hard to find this out there. We've been hard pressed to get information. The bottom line, funding consolidated government is a goal-oriented exercise. And what that means is consolidated government includes both the city and the parish, but the consolidated government has a duty to ensure that the budget is balanced, that nobody goes bankrupt. So that's why there's been, from the Durrell administration, maybe 60-40% split, and then it went to 80-20 for Joel Robideau's administration. We've learned behind the scenes, listening to our auditor and the fellow that's in charge of approving the allocation of dollars, that when you've got, what was it, the dedicated dollars, say the term for me. Non-dedicated revenue, non-dedicated ad valorem sales taxes. So I'm not the accountant in the room, I'm just a lawyer. But we've learned that based on ability to pay, and that's not a term people want to use because it doesn't sound right, but it's a way that up to 35% of our city tax dollars can be commingled with parish, and they can allocate the expenses. And that's how the city ends up paying for services outside of the city limits. And so it took me about probably 20 hours to figure that out. Like I had to sit through a bunch of meetings to kind of have that hit me in the head. How does that work? We don't have separate budgets at this point. We don't have a city budget and a parish budget. So here's what we're recommending. And look, you can see I didn't do this right once it came on the big screen. We're looking to ask the council to create separate operating fund for consolidated government. So we want to see a city fund, a parish fund, and a third fund where everybody pays in according to what they should pay, like to pay for things like we're going to split the cost of that road, we're going to split the cost of drainage, whatever. We want our council members, and I hope y'all are taking notes, guys, we want you to scrutinize the budget. We believe they need an independent budget analyst because it's very hard to get information. The budget's like over 445 pages maybe, and it's very complicated, but yet it's not. It's a lot of numbers, but it's really not that complicated if you know what to ask. But to know what to ask, you need to ask somebody that knows what to ask. We want y'all to exercise full city council authority. As an example, our city council members last year were trying to fight for park dollars, and they were unsuccessful. The parish council was given the authority to block that vote, and I'll let you guys talk about that more. But Kevin Knockan, who was chair of the parish council last year, came and talked to us, and he said that he couldn't believe that the parish council had the right to hold up the discussion for the city council. So he brought a motion to the floor to say, let's let the city council talk about city tax dollars, and he couldn't get a second. So you know last year our budget was slashed. We lost money for parks, for downtown. We lost a lot of money that the city had the funding for, but we couldn't get it allocated. We want to see the charter amended to provide that the city council approves the LUS Fiber director. It's clear in the charter that they can approve the LUS director, but the new fiber division, there was a director just appointed and they were not given the right to vet that person and approve that person. That's one of our biggest assets. We'd like to see the charter amended to limit term of interim appointments. I think there's been some people serving for several years now that have not been, I don't even know what happens, but they're just in there as an appointment, not confirmed. And then we'd also like to see, this is a big one, intergovernmental agreements between the city and parish. Whenever the city of Lafayette or consolidated government helps, let's say Youngsville, clean out a drainage ditch, Youngsville isn't just going to like pony up all the money. They want to see what the parish is going to do because the parish is really the drainage district. So to work with Youngsville, you got to have an agreement that says we're going to pay this, you're going to pay that. But there's no agreements between the city of Lafayette and our parish. And therefore, there's no tracking of labor. There's no tracking of cost. Kind of my point I made a little bit earlier. I'm hitting the high points. I am no expert at this. Some of you in this room could probably run circles around me. I'm just trying to point out what we've learned. So what's next? We're seeking input on the draft report from the administration, civic groups, and you. Tomorrow night will be our 6th town hall. It's our regularly scheduled meeting tomorrow night at LCG City Hall, what's the council hall, at 5:30. We really are asking for comments from officials. We've asked Josh Guillory to join us tomorrow night. We haven't heard yet that he can make it. We are just a committee. We have to be done by August 23rd. I think we're going to be done in July, like hopefully 3rd week in July. Once we deliver a report, it's up to the city council and the parish council to jointly call a charter commission, which is the only way to propose a new charter. Unfortunately, the city council cannot just bring up that we need our own mayor. We have got to get the parish council to approve this discussion. So what we talked about earlier, we're in a box. We're asking our parish council members to think about this because many of them represent city residents also. We need their help, and we need to help them as a community. We need to help the parish. If they don't call a charter commission, if the parish council doesn't agree, we, the citizens, could cause a charter commission to be called by producing a petition signed by 10,000 Lafayette Parish residents. And we could go around that. Or, worst case scenario, we could go to the legislature and ask for it, but they really don't want to get in the middle of all this if they don't have to. And then upon conclusion of the work by a charter commission, which can take up to, 18 months to do their work, and that's where we can slow down and look at what we need to do. We keep on hearing, don't rush this, let's slow down. We're just a committee. I'm telling you, like, probably when we're gone, I don't even know if Nanette wants to call me back after this, She might go, oh my God. But 18 months, and it's pretty clear what we need to do. I'm just saying we need to do it. Where can you find our report, which we're still working on? We're kind of shifting around some things to make it easier to read, but you can go to, if you just type in LCG, which is LafayetteLA.gov, just click on to City Council. You can look up documents, and you probably can just type in LCG PTC Committee Draft Report if you Google. Or you can email us at PTC Committee at LafayetteLA.gov. Or you can even just call City Hall and ask for Veronica Williams. Or just ask for Nanette or Pat or any of your elected officials, whether they're city or parish. I'm so grateful for you guys. This is us. We all live in the parish, and probably most of you live in the city. But until I dove deep into this, I didn't really get what we were up against. I didn't get it. I was an assistant city parish attorney for, almost 8 years. I didn't even think about this. It never occurred to me. But the past year, as we've seen how things have not panned out for the city's autonomy, and as I've had the pleasure of working with all of my committee members who have spent untold hours and days and weeks working together, I'm asking you to support us in moving forward. And so what I'd like to do, we can move to questions and comments. I'm thinking if we ask first our city council members that are here to come take this microphone, and then we can move on to questions from the community. But if you'd like to come up, both of you, and thank you for your service. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan. Thank you, committee. I was thinking we were just going to go to questions and answers, but we could basically, this report covers a lot. It covers a lot of information, a lot of things that, first 4 years on the council, when Pat and I were on the council together, the first 4 when it was city-parish government, some of these things kind of came to the surface, but we had a council, that was a combined council, so we tended to kind of work together on these things, and maybe we didn't dive into them as much as we should have. Then move forward, to fix the charter, which people said was rushed, and maybe it was rushed, but I'm telling you, without that first step that we took, we would not be sitting in this auditorium tonight talking about the next step. That is what really brought it to light when we had our budget, our first budget as a separate city, parish, and city council and parish council, when we saw the things that Jan was talking about, parks and rec issues, when a city millage that the city should be controlling was being spent outside of the city at parish parks, and we didn't have the voice to actually correct that. And then when funding was taken away again, we were blocked as far as trying to put that funding and those employees back. So that was first red flag. And then big red flag was the legal, when we needed help with the budget and we wanted to hire legal, but we're told that we could not. And you have a legal department that is serving the mayor president, and so they have a decision that's made based on what they think is a parish decision, but we wanted another opinion, but we were blocked for that. So to me, those were the first 2 things that really sent the signal to me, like we've got to move past this. And I'll give the credit to Pat. He was the one that pushed for this committee. He got it together. We once he said, let's do this, we supported him in getting this together. And again, I cannot thank y'all enough for all the information that you have dug into and found. And you've probably, come across the same kind of things we did in terms of difficulty in getting some information. But I think the more you dug, and the more we pursued it, the more information we got. So again, just thank y'all again for doing that. And I'm anxious to hear what the questions are tonight. But I want to encourage you to please, put the word out there, or educate. You're here, you're learning. The idea is for you to educate now that person that has no clue what deconsolidation means, what consolidation even meant. So now we need to put that word out on the street so everyone understands what we're dealing with currently and where we need to go next to better serve both the city and the parish. This committee was not designed to bankrupt the parish. That's not our intention at all, because we all live in the parish. There are things in the parish that we need to fund as a member of the parish of Lafayette. So that is not the intention ever to just say, okay, see ya, the city's going to do their own thing and you're on your own. No, that's what the 18 months is going to be about. If we can get that charter commission, together, we can get that out there, then that is when we sit down with the parish and we talk about all the things that each entity needs to do to survive and to thrive. So again, spread that word out that is what, that's what this whole exercise has been about, to educate the community on what it means, what does consolidation mean, what are we living now, and what do we want to get to. And, we talked about the word deconsolidation. We need to come up with a new word. So we're looking for, anybody got a suggestion? Because deconsolidation apparently failed twice. So we need to give it a new name. So be thinking about a new name for it, but we need to get to that point so we can each, again, thrive, and as a whole parish thrive. Because if Lafayette thrives, so does the parish. I mean, we're all in this together. So again, thank you all for coming, and push that message, please.
Good evening. There's not much that I can add to what you guys have been hearing from the Chair, Jan Swift, and from my co-worker, Nanette Cook, my colleague. But I must say this. If you're not from the city of Lafayette, but let's say you are from the city of Lafayette, do you think it's fair? Do you really think it's fair that people that live outside of the city of Lafayette can vote for the mayor president? And if you live in Lafayette and you cannot vote for the mayor in any municipalities, remember there are 6 municipalities. Lafayette is the largest. You have Cancro, Scott, Dusson, Broussard, and Youngsville. We cannot tell them anything to do, or we don't have any business in their city. But I want everyone to realize where the biggest problem we have are the ones that live in the unincorporated areas. There's no city. All they pay is what? Property tax. No city tax. But they want the same services that you get in the city. Because you pay what? At the end of the year, when you get your tax bill, you have a tax bill for the parish, and you have a tax bill for the city. If you live in these other municipalities, these other 5 municipalities, you have 2 bills again. Ms. Como can testify to that. If you live in Youngsville, you pay Youngsville's parish tax and city tax to Youngsville, and that city tax stays in that municipality. The city tax stays in Lafayette. Broussard, no, I'm sorry, Broussard, I don't believe they pay city taxes out of the way it's function. They do not pay it. Only Broussard. Why? I don't know. I'm not going to get into that. But if you live in Cancro, you live in Dusson, and Scott, you pay city taxes that stays in the city of Scott and all these municipalities. But then unincorporated, what happens? There's no city tax, just parish tax. But when the road needs to be resurfaced, or if the road is gravel, they have the drainage problem, who they contacted? These other municipalities, these other 5 municipalities don't want to cross-share. They do not believe in cost sharing. So who pays for it? All of you guys sitting down right there that lives in the city. You guys are paying to help the unincorporated areas. Is that a problem? Some people might say, let's help our neighbors. So, if you want to help your neighbors, so be it. But then when you're drowning, well, who's going to help you? So I want everybody to keep in mind that what's going on was the reality. And I know some people are hearing that for the first time. I know that you can tell me, oh, no, I've been hearing that. No, you haven't been hearing that. You cannot vote for the mayor in these municipalities, and the mayor and everybody living in these outside of towns or municipalities can vote for the mayor president in Lafayette. And like Ms. Nanette said earlier, one of the biggest things that came to my mind, I was on the chair, I'm the one who brought up, let's have our own legal department. It was shut down. Before we hired her, the city council members hired someone to work from out of Baton Rouge to come and represent us on a part-time basis as needed. And what happened? The administrative attorney sued that person before they started working. Before they came and asked us, how can she help us? And they sued her, so what happened? She stayed in Baton Rouge. And the suit is still going on today. Is that fair? The suit is going on today because we could not hire our own legal person. And I didn't hear nobody complain about it. No one. But I mean, some people on the articles made some issues about Lafayette cannot hire their own mayor. Radio hosts say the same thing. Lafayette can't hire their own mayor. But yes, if some people know about what's been going on the north side of Lafayette, the EDDs, where we have 5 of them, what happened? They had a coalition want to sue because they said it was unfair. The taxpayers did not vote on it. Just like the TIF and other EDDs they have in Broussard, they may not be used, but they have an EDD in Broussard. They have taxes in Cancro and Scott, TIF, I'm sorry, in Cancro and Scott. You never heard a word one about it. So there's a lot of things that's going on that's not fair because what? We have a mayor president, not a mayor of Lafayette, not a manager or a parish president or whatever you want to call that person. But in Lafayette, we have a mayor president that spends how much time in Lafayette and how much time in the parish. I don't know. Could be 100% in the parish and 0% in the parish. I doubt it, but I don't know. So whenever you think about all this that's going on, you might be hearing it for the first time. Remember that Lafayette deserves its own autonomy, deserves its own mayor, deserves its budget. And I heard Ms. Swift saying that some things they want the parish council, the city council to do. It's easy said. It's easy said. But when you have a mayor president that can control what goes on, and let me make you guys understand, a control. But he's the one, or whoever it may be, could be someone else. They are the one that signed the check. We try to hire our own legal person, but if he didn't want to pay that person and have his accountant or whoever signed the check, it's going nowhere. So when you sit down and say, well, hey, the city council, they're not doing what they should do. They control everything. Yeah, we control, but we don't control who's going to write the check. So it makes a big difference. If you're in business, you control who writes your check. So if you don't want an employee to do anything, you don't want to pay for something or buy anything, you write the check. So you are the controlling person. Yes, we are 5 city councilmen and 5 parish council members. So what we have to do, work with our mayor president to make things happen. So that's all I'm going to say for now, but I think I will be back. Thank you.
All right, now we're going to turn to questions and or comments from the public. I see Sam Oliver, who's going to be playing the role of Oprah, going out into the audience tonight. So our first commenter is Rick Swanson.
Rick, you were capped at 3 minutes.
All right, thanks. Well, luckily, because of the great presentations by everyone, a lot of my points that I prepared were already made. But I think it's clear the system is broke. You know, just witness, for example, the abuse of power by the parish council that not only prevented our city council from deciding how city taxes are going to be spent, but even stopped city taxpayers from discussing how their own taxes were going to be spent. I mean, that was simply an abuse of power. And so the system is broke, and I would encourage anyone who doesn't think it's broke to read the report, and made the points pretty well. The main point I want to make then, you know, Councilwoman Cook, you said what to call this instead of deconsolidation. I call it liberty, I call it freedom, I call it democracy. It's just straightforward. We are second-class citizens right now in Lafayette. By law, we are second-class citizens in the parish, and I'm not aware of anywhere else in the country where city residents are treated like this. So by law, we are second-class citizens. We want to be equal citizens. So it's simple equality. That's all it is. Do you see? Okay. And to the argument that some people I've heard, and Mr. Pope, I know you've made this argument, I would encourage you to reconsider this. You say, well, we're rushing this. We've been consolidated in some degree or another for 25 years. That's a quarter century. A quarter century where city monies have been bled and siphoned into the parish. That's undemocratic, it's un-American. I'll say it too, it's undemocratic and un-American. And so to someone who says, oh, we're rushing this, I would say, no, what's the delay? What's the holdup? Why is this taking so long? 25 years is long enough. You know, we wrote the U.S. Constitution in 3 months from scratch. It's not that hard. We can write a new city charter, and we have 18 months to do it. There's nothing being rushed here. If anything, this has been way too long delayed. And so my words of advice to the council, get tough, show some tough love. If the parish isn't going to vote to approve a charter commission, then just say you're not going to approve any ordinances that they want. And if they're not going to approve your budget, you get together, and at least, right, if I understand, 3 of you can vote to block anything the parish wants. So show some tough love. You have the powers to negotiate and get some tough negotiating tactics with the parish. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Mrs. Anita Begnaud. 3 minutes.
Anita, you get bonus points if you go under 3 minutes.
It's tight quarters up here. Anita Begnaud, I'm a District 2 resident with my husband, Lyle. But I'm originally from Church Point, and I made a decision 13 years ago to move to the city of Lafayette because I was going to UL Lafayette. And I want to repeat, I choose to live in the city of Lafayette when I could live basically anywhere. I want to see Lafayette grow and flourish. It is my home, and I spend a lot of my personal and my professional time focused on moving Lafayette forward, growing its population, which we saw the opposite has occurred since 1996, generating tax revenues so that we can continue to pay for services that are important to us, the citizens who choose to live in the city of Lafayette. It is frankly frightening to see how little Lafayette has grown since 1996 population-wise. And then when we compare it to other municipalities throughout the parish of Lafayette, wow. I want my taxes to go toward priorities that will facilitate and benefit the growth of the city, because I believe that the city of Lafayette still has a very long way to go if we truly want to be competitive with other places we say we want to be more like. I am also a parish resident. I pay parish taxes, and they have to go a long way. As Jan mentioned, the parish has a very heavy lift. I am concerned. The courthouse complex fund was nearly depleted last year. The jail is undersized and outdated. Those are big things that have impacts on Lafayette moving forward as a city and a parish. And they have big impacts on downtown Lafayette. If you know me, you know that's important to me. I have been very encouraged by seeing so much citizen engagement in the city of Lafayette by parish residents, unincorporated area residents, city residents, and people who live in other municipalities. I believe that jobs and economic development are very important to our future. Recruiting and retaining talent. We have this wonderful college here in Lafayette, but how do we keep the people who graduated from here? Lots of people move to other places because they're looking for quality of life amenities that we do not have. We have a wonderful culture. We love to celebrate it, but I have many friends who have moved away, and I have friends who are sitting in this room who are still considering moving away because of what we lack in Lafayette. So I encourage you all to keep pushing. I want to thank this committee and the city council for this work, and I want you to keep pushing, keep exploring, and help us find the answers. That keeps coming up a lot, that we don't have the answers. We have to keep working if we want to find them, and we have to work together to get it done. So thank you for your time and your energy and your efforts.
Sam, don't go too far because our next speaker is Mr. Pat Trahan.
Thank you. So I read the report, and I think the report is very revealing, and I think anyone I've spoken to who has read it has said the same thing. And, you know, one of the things that it brings up is self-governance. And I mean, don't we all want government that's closer to the people and more accountable to the people? The subsidizing going on between the city and the parish has gone on for a long, long time. And really what it amounts to is it's just hiding a problem. And we all know the longer you hide a problem, the less likely it is you're ever going to deal with it. And, you know, look at the progress we've made nationally in the last year when the COVID crisis and George Floyd's murder, you know, peeled back the curtain and revealed some problems that we were pretty good at hiding. Just look how fast minds and hearts can change and how fast you can get things done. Now, I don't equate this crisis with that crisis, okay? It's not anything the same. But the point is, as long as the problem remains buried, you're just not going to deal with it. And this report, you know, Joey Durrell gave us a peek behind the curtain, you know, 10 years ago, and we saw a little bit of it, and he dealt with it, and he did what he could at the time. But this report is pulling the curtain wide open. And, you know, it reminds me of one of my favorite quotes from Maya Angelou. She said, you know, I did my best until I knew better. And once I know better, I must do better. And I think that quote fits this situation perfectly. Yeah, it's easy to just keep the status quo, go along, get along, subsidize the poor relative who can't, you know, make ends meet. But as Pat said, it's not fair. And if it's an injustice and something that's not fair, we need to deal with it. And it really doesn't matter who was right or wrong 20 years ago. Our best civic leaders and government leaders came together. They recommended consolidation. There's no villains here. It just didn't work, okay? And it shouldn't be a big surprise to us that a major initiative of government had unintended consequences. I mean, we always see that with government actions. That's always the case. So, you know, that law is always in place. So, especially with new government actions. So, I don't know how many times we have to relearn that lesson, but I would just conclude by saying, once we know better, we must do better.
Thank you, Pat.
And I want to thank Pat for your comments. I forgot to mention, When we met as a committee, over and over, we heard from people, beginning with Ed Abel. I think he might have been our first speaker. He was on the original Charter Commission. And all the people that spoke that were pro-consolidation, they said without fail, it hasn't gone as we intended. It hasn't worked. And they've also said, we want to see a plan. But it's been consistent. It just didn't go the way people thought. No one thought that Lafayette would shrink as a percentage of the parish and be left in this box. So thank you, Pat.
Okay, our next speaker is Mr. Andre Como.
Thank you. Thank you for your work, all of you. I support deconsolidation. I think we should embrace the word. Personally, when I hear somebody try to reword something, my distrust radar goes up, so I would embrace the word deconsolidation for all of the reasons that have been mentioned. It's going to take the parish council. And I have heard publicly from some of the parish council members sort of a reaction, a defensive reaction, words like, we don't want to leave a scorched earth. We don't want the parish to be left in the lurch or holding the bag. And so I think we are all residents of the parish. We are all represented in the parish. And we should each reach out to our parish council person and encourage them to embrace this and show some optimistic leadership for the parish once deconsolidation happens, as opposed to fighting deconsolidation and defending the status quo. Thank you all for your work.
Thank you.
Next is Mr. Jared Eubanks.
Thank you. One of the big things for me, and I'm just curious if you guys think this will really address that, is how opaque our budget process really is. I don't feel like you should have to be a lawyer or an accountant to serve on our parish or city council. And honestly, sitting through as many budget hearings as I did, I felt like even if you were both of those, you were still kind of struggling behind. Fix the Charter, I think, showed some of those budget issues even more transparent for the first time when we saw the councils come to some contention over issues and sadly seeing issues not even being addressed. I know at one point the city council was trying to apply money directly to the Hyman Center, and it was all city dollars, but they weren't able to do so because it was part of a joint fund on a larger level, even if that particular item wasn't. And I just want to know if you think that splitting these will come up with a budget process that I think does have more transparency and holds people more accountable to that. Also, I feel like local government should be the most approachable and like representative form of government. And here we are, I think we're seeing with our mayor parish president that that's quickly stripping away with like Lafayette's decreasing percentage of the population and with the city vote not being aligned with the parish vote. So do all of your recommendations also include splitting that role? I'm not sure exactly where if it's just y'all's ultimate recommendation is just calling a charter, or if it includes more than that, a charter, what's the word? Commission, there we go. Thanks.
Does anybody want to respond to that?
I can go. So for the most part, everybody on this committee has agreed that the city needs its own mayor. So I'll put that out right now. The path to get there looks a lot different sometimes. So yes, we all have agreed that the city does need its own mayor for the most part. But we've talked about deconsolidation. Tomorrow night, we're going to talk about another potential approach to it as well. We're going to keep hammering away and seeing what the path to that looks like. We want to make sure that process is transparent, that we do have a plan moving forward, because I think that's one of the issues we had with the original consolidations. We voted, didn't have a plan in place. We saw what we got. We don't want to repeat that. So I just want to make that clear. Anybody else?
You want to say something more?
Sure. Oh, I didn't know we were going to pass the mic. So good evening, Mark Pope. Excuse me, the lone dissenter on deconsolidation. My answer is no. Do we have problems? You bet. Lafayette, its own mayor? I think so. Are there problems? Yes, there are. What I don't like, what are the problems? The mayor, we have to define what parish government is. It is not defined. When they did fix the charter, I'm a 27-year LCG employee. I know a little bit, and I've been a student for the government for over 30 years. When I saw the fix the charter, section 5.04, a budget item shall be jointly approved by city council and parish council unless it is solely funded by the city or the parish. To a layperson, solely means 100%. That's not what's happening, folks. And part of what you're hearing about the deficit from the Joey Durrell years, I don't accept it. It was his 9th year in office, and he said, I had an epiphany. It took a perfect storm. Really, sir? You're chief executive. And he said, parish, city dollars leaking into the parish. This is not a plumbing business. You're the chief executive. You sign off on the budget. So are there problems? You bet. Do they need to be fixed? Yes. And I saw Roddy, good work on your publicity. There's different ways to handle this. A charter commission or the city council and the parish council working together. So don't say I'm a naysayer and I've never been good at groupthink. Just because so many people say this, if I know differently, I'm going to stick with my beliefs. And so there you have it. But I do believe, agree with you, Andre. We need some positive leadership. These guys are doing it. There needs to be changes. And thank you guys for your involvement.
I don't have anything to say other than I don't think that we're on groupthink. I think we all are independent thinkers, and we all just came to this conclusion on our own. Just like he has a dissenting opinion, we all have our own independent opinions as well, as far as what's happening with the city and the autonomy for our city as well. So thank you all for providing your comment and providing your support and or dissension on what's happening within the city. But this is the dialogue that we need to have as a community in order to move us forward as a community. So thank you for Mark Pope for your participation and for your dissent as well, because we need that.
Anybody else? Bill, Tab? Okay.
Okay, our next speaker is Mr. Steve Bro.
I want to thank you guys. Steve Bro, I'm a lifetime resident of Lafayette. Just retired from UL. I don't recognize my city anymore. I don't recognize who we are, who we have become. When we have, it feels like there's an attack on certain entities that have taken years and years to develop. The Acadiana Center for the Arts, Hyman Center, Festival International, our libraries, LUS, Science Museum, thank you. And there's more. And it seems that we could do better, have better representation. I think if we decide to have a mayor, which I believe we should have, and still keep the form of government we have, I think that's going to be a real problem trying to negotiate. Because I believe not only should LUS have its own appointed director, and the process in which that director is appointed should come from the city. People who care about these entities that we have taken a long, long time to develop. And so the library should be able to have its own director and have its own process, all of them, not just LUS. So I hope you could add that into what you have, because I noticed, Jen, in the presentation, it was only LUS that was suggested, but I believe if we're going to have a mayor, the mayor has to have an effective way to divide the money. The money is important, right? You know, money creates all this stuff. but it's people, really, who give us the soul of this place. And I feel like we're kind of losing that right now. Thank you.
Steve. And Steve, I want to share with you some history that I learned through this other work that I do. Lafayette is our hub city because back in the 1800s, our forebears were leaders and they built roads, the spokes, out from the hub city, so people would have to come through here to shop with our merchants. In 1896, when our utility system was started by Lafayette, that is what brought SLI here. That is what allowed us to have our own university, because we were the only city, and we were a town really, that had utilities. Everybody else didn't have lights. It was supposed to go to Opelousas or some other town, but our city, through our forebears, and in particular I look back to Maurice Hyman and others, had the guts to fight, to maintain our hub city. And that's what I've come, I know, thank you Tina for saying it's not groupthink. I knew some of this history, and as I've learned more, I'm in awe that we're still here, and I'm also hopeful for a better future. But the people that came before us led the way, and I think now we can take our next step. But thank you so much for bringing up so much of what's important for us, our culture. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Mr. Wayne Colvin.
You heard a lot about the revenue, and that's the couple of the big issues there is the tax dollars that come in from sales tax and property tax. The unincorporated or the parish pays a lot of property tax, and unincorporated pays preponderance of it. The sales taxes comes from the commercial areas and those areas where those sales takes place, and those are what? Shopping centers, commercial districts, and along major thoroughfares. And when we looked at what the, when you look at the city limits boundaries, not only of Lafayette, but all the municipalities, they're very skewed. There's a lot of just the roadways and just the commercial areas were annexed. The adjacent residential areas to them are non-annexed, so those wind up being unincorporated. Now what that means is, so you got all these little areas. Now, these areas are not just straightforward. When you look at a state map, you can visualize the state boundaries usually by a river or some other well-demarked line. Not in the city limits at all. They are just all over the place, and I don't think anybody would disagree with me on that. Makes it hard to govern because what we have is islands of unincorporated areas surrounded by an incorporated area. Or we'll have a peninsula out there, which is an incorporated area surrounded by an unincorporated area, or vice versa. And what happens is all of that, it makes it real hard to govern, particularly when you're looking at the drainage or roads, because they meander maybe from one municipality through an unincorporated, or through into a municipality and then to another unincorporated. This makes it real hard to manage all of that. Now, lady addressed the populations. Had Lafayette increased or annexed a lot of this rural area, the population would have grown. So that's one way to gain more population, because a lot of this is all these little areas, these residential areas. They don't produce any sales tax, but they do produce populations. Now, but then again, who pays the sales taxes? The people that buy the goods. So they ultimately come from the people. It's not the businesses that pay them out of their pocket. It's what the people pay. So the population for Lafayette Parish has grown 13% over the
Mr.
last...
Colvin, that's 3 minutes. If you just wrap up, please.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, life is better when we work together. And I'm not sure we're working together when we take this direct approach and want to just recharter everything. And I think that tweaking would be a better way to go.
Our next speaker is Mr. Will Thiele. Hope I said that right.
Hello, my name is Will Thiele. I live in City District 2. Thank you, Stuart. This is my third town hall that I've gone to, and I hear a consistent message when I go to it, even from the parish people that I speak to and the parish councilmen that I speak to. Excuse me. And they don't want to vote for the city mayor of Lafayette. I don't think we need to point fingers or cast blame. They have no desire in voting for the mayor of Lafayette. I think if that was put on the ballot for the people to vote for, it would easily pass, that the city of Lafayette could have their own mayor. To that, I would also like to add the importance of the city having its own city attorney. It boggles my mind that the City Council of Lafayette, elected by the city residents of Lafayette, could enact a law, an ordinance, but it just fizzles into nothing because one man decides not to defend it. That doesn't seem legal to me. That doesn't seem right to me. I posed this issue to my city councilman, Andy Knockan, and he reminded me that the city parish attorney is an attorney of the charter, not of either council, but he's an attorney of the home rule charter. And to me, that's not how that works. Like, you've elevated him to be a judge, to be an arbiter. Whatever side he chooses to defend is the side that wins. Both sides should have an attorney and a judge. And if that judge makes mistakes, there's levels to appeal. So I can't buy that argument. When a criminal commits a crime, what is the first thing the police officer says? He says, if you can't afford an attorney, one will be appointed for you free of charge. Our city council doesn't have that level of those rights. A criminal gets more rights than our city council. I don't understand that. And then the last point I would like to make is the allocation formulas that we use. One of the points that was made is that our councils need to scrutinize the budget more and scrutinize the allocation formulas because they are crazy. They've gone from 60-40 to 80-20, but the city of Lafayette hasn't suddenly received much more benefit of these services. We're just suddenly paying much more. But at the last budget cycle, Councilwoman Liz Webb-Hebert did challenge at least one instance of it, of the 80-20 split. And she was told by Ms. Lori Toops and the administration that she would have to balance the parish budget herself if we deviated from the 80-20 split. And to me, that doesn't seem right, because how could a city councilwoman tell the parish council how to spend their money? That she can't. So I support everything, and I hope we move forward. And at the very least, I hope we move forward with a separated mayor president and a separated city parish attorney.
Concerning the allocation is set to where it fluctuates. It may be 80-20. In some instances, it's 60-40. It is not a consistent allocation. When we spoke to the firm in New York City through webcast, he confirmed that the city of Lafayette chief financial officer only sends figures that are not verified. So we've heard one side where in Lafayette, the signal lights, somebody go around and count all the signal lights. So that way, coming out, we have a 90-10. Does that make sense? What has happened is that the monies are commingled. We have two governments, and we have in the middle an animal called consolidation. And consolidation takes money from both pots. And this is what is supposedly allocated, but is the allocation method correct? We don't think so. So we need work on the budget. We need to find ways to get a sustainable allocation method that will work throughout if we are to continue. That way we have accountability.
And we were also told by that same firm that we were told first by the administration, by Ms. Toops, that the allocation formula was given to them, that they followed what was given. And then when we interviewed the fellow, Brett Schuyler, he said they hadn't worked since 2016 to come up with these numbers. So it's been a little difficult to find information. So we're hoping as we move forward that floodgate of information may open up.
And we've talked about this before, but if the city council would like to send us to New York to spend some more time with the cost allocation consultants, you know, we are willing to do that for the city.
Only if we can go with you.
On the Greyhound bus. Keep the cost down.
Final speaker tonight is Mr. Miles Mott.
Thank you. I appreciate first all the work that you guys have done. I know y'all are overpaid, but that's okay. I have to admit I haven't been around town the last 2 weeks. I've been taking my first 2-week vacation, and I had service only about 20% of the time, and it was great. Okay. I'll quote like Pat Trowell, but I'll quote from a closer friend of he and I. I remember when the first consolidation took place, separate from it, a person well known to all of us, Edwin Edwards, said this. He said, when the money's flowing, even a monkey can be governor. Okay? But if you put that into context, that's when consolidation took place. The money was flowing. No one cared or even needed to care whether the parish was paying some of the city services or vice versa. Times have changed. Everybody has sharpened their pencil now. The thing is that, to me, I'm fully in favor of deconsolidation. But to me, one of the things that rubs me just really wrong is that the parish provides services parish-wide. But if there's a deficit, it's underwritten by us. It's not underwritten by the other incorporated areas. I do not think that a mayor and a parish president would work under these circumstances. I don't think that's even a step. I think that's going to just show you and create greater problems. It's going to delay the deconsolidation. We can't just do this in the snap of a finger in a year because of the elections. One of the things I just want to bring up, I don't know how accurate it is, but I know that some of the concern and some of my concern is we all need parish services. There's no doubt about it. My concern is that if we deconsolidate, the parish is not going to have the tax base to support the services that it is required to provide. But if we think about it this way, if the city has enough money today to underwrite the deficiency of the parish, that means if we deconsolidate, perhaps we have an excess of funds. And I know our government always likes to cut taxes. So if we deconsolidate, the city taxes could be reduced. If the parish needs more taxes, the parish can raise taxes, but it's going to be parish-wide, so everybody at that point is going to be paying their fair share. That's all I have to say.
I wanted to comment, first of all, are you cutting our taxes now? So city's not going to have any money? Is that where you're going with this? No, there were a couple of comments, a couple of things Jared said, a couple of things Pat said. You know, one of the things that last budget hearing, and I can see it coming this budget hearing as well, is for us to protect our city assets. And the Hyman Performing Arts Center, the Science Museum, the ACA, those are some of our city assets. This was the problem we faced the last budget. Those assets were in a department that was community development. And community development was a joint department. And so when it came time for a vote, that's where we kind of hit a wall because it was a joint department, and so we had city and parish voting on that. And so we little by little chipped away at Parks and Rec to where we managed to get that solely city. We moved some things out, so we got that solely city. But one of the things that we were told was employees of either one of these departments are paid partly by the parish. And so which made them, again, a joint department. So to me, if we're moving forward, some clearer lines, if Parks and Rec employees are paid only by the city of Lafayette, the parish won't have to be putting that money in. I'm trying to think of ways to figure out how will the parish come ahead here. Are there certain places like that they're putting money in that they should not be putting money in either? So to me, that was one of those situations. They shouldn't be paying for our City of Lafayette employees at all. That should be solely our city responsibility. So, you know, we're digging in a little deeper. You know, this next budget, I believe we're doing some reorganization of community development to where we will have those, at least it hasn't been brought before us. It's, you know, I've seen it run across the desk, but I believe it's true. That those particular entities, Hyman Center, ACA, and Science Museum are going to be moved into Parks and Rec, along with the senior centers, which to me always should have been in Parks and Rec, they're activity centers. But so we're gradually kind of drawing the lines to separate the departments to where, you know, moving forward with this mayor-president, you know, mayor of Lafayette only, deconsolidation just makes the most sense, and it's going to make it clearer. You know, we have a very complicated form of government. Everybody talks about that. It's so complicated right now. So let's make it more simple. I mean, we have city, we have parish, and we've asked, for what it's worth, we've asked to have separate budgets. We said we want a city budget only. Put everything that's the city, you know, city dollars goes here. We want a parish, everything here. We want an LCG combined while we're still consolidated. We were told that would be too hard. So again, we said, oh, okay. But that's really kind of where we need to be going. First of all, separating so we get it, so we see, and then it becomes very clear when we deconsolidate, okay, why is the parish paying for that? They shouldn't be paying for that. Why is the city? So again, I believe there'll be some advantages for the parish as well. So this is not just something that, you know, let's just, you know, worry about the city. We are concerned about how we can make it work for both, and that was one of those things. And then, of course, I think Karen spoke at one of the last meetings about the library, in that, you know, we did take that money from them. She's still talking to me, but they were not happy. But we should not have had a voice in that. That's a parish building. Why did we have, so again, the parish would benefit if they get the city out of their business, you know? So anyway, you know, think about those, we want it to benefit both. We want both to thrive. And so those are just, in listening to some of your comments, those are the kind of things that again, make me think we need to make this work. And we have the 18 months, we need to get together and talk about how to make it work, not just because we just want to forge on as the city. We need to make it work together so everybody thrives. So that's all I have.
Are there any other comments? Mark? Something else?
I want to just real quick, I don't want to, good idea, so I wish lowering tax was easy. It sounds good. Anybody from unincorporated Lafayette Parish? Okay. No offense, Wayne. We heard from several people that addressed us, said, well, how do we solve the problem? The parish is underfunded, doesn't have money to pay state-mandated services. Jan named a bunch of them. Okay, so the parish folks don't like taxes. Let's fire protection. In the city, we have a 2 fire rating, which means our insurance rates they're good. You go to the parish, their fire rating is 6. They had their opportunity in the parish to vote themselves a millage, 10 mills. How much for a $200,000 house, Conrad, in tax? About 30 bucks. 30, 35, 40 bucks, okay? It would have brought in $3 million for fire protection in the unincorporated parish. They voted no. They don't like taxes, and that's part of the problem. So it's complicated.
Thank you, Mark. Roddy, were you wanting to say something? So as we close, I note that we've kind of finished on time. I think that the front bar area will be open until about 8, so anybody that would like to mingle and talk about what we've said and have a water or something, you can have that. It's all free. And I want to thank all of you for coming tonight. I want to thank our committee members, Pat Lewis and Nanette Cook. And I'm going to call out one of my colleagues that hasn't spoken, but one of the clearest thinking and speaking people on our committee, I'm embarrassing Patricia, it's Bill Leindecker. He's been very much an understated member who has contributed as much, if not more, than any of us. So Bill, I want to take a moment to thank you.
Thank you very much. I started this whole process with a few goals in mind. The number one goal was to get the city of Lafayette its own exclusive full-time mayor with all the rights and privileges of all the other mayors in the parish. No more, no less, the same. My second objective was to have a city council with the same rights and privileges, powers, autonomy as every other city council in the parish of Lafayette. I wanted to make sure that LUS and LUS Fiber were protected, stays under city government. I also wanted to make sure that the parish somehow finds a dependable, reliable revenue stream, because they're important for everyone. Okay? So I think that if we move forward with the Charter Commission and we take the 18 months, from all the people that we've interviewed and all the people that have spoken, I really believe that we can figure this out in the 18 months and that we can have a new, better form of government that's not as dysfunctional as the one we have now. Okay? So I think with your support, we can all make that happen, and sooner than later, we can all be in a better place. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Bill.